Hello, and welcome to 30-Minute Mentor. I'm Megan Ross, Seed&Spark's Head of Creator Success, and I'm super excited to share this conversation with you today, our last one of 2022. I also want to introduce and thank today's ASL interpreter from the sign language company, Bill Pugin, for helping us make this event more accessible. And thank you to our sponsor, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission. Their mission is to increase job opportunities for Tennessee's creative and technology community. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Seed&Spark, we're a platform built to support creators from crowdfunding and education to impact distribution. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that from the lips of our Mauve CEO, Emily Best, rocking the velvet blazer.
Thank you so much, Megan. I rock this blazer for you and you alone. I'm really just here at the very top of this to have a celebratory moment that just 2 weeks ago, Seed&Spark turned 10 years old, which is a huge feat. We've seen so many incredible companies and efforts come and go, and we've really stuck it out and grown our little space. And I have to give Megan and her team all the flowers because in 2022, our 10th year, technically, we removed crowdfunding fees for creators and became the only creator platform with no crowdfunding fees. And then we went ahead and ramped up our success rate. So Megan and her team work directly with every creator that comes to the platform to make sure their campaign is really in the best position to succeed. And as a result, in 2022, we have had an 84% campaign success rate. I will just say that the next closest platform to that success rate has a 37% success rate, and they are considered the market leader. We also, in 2022, launched a pilot of something called a Patrons Fund, where our friends like Mark Duplass and Emily V. Gordon and Jason Reitman and Alex Kurtzman chipped in funding that we were able to distribute as matching funds to creative campaigns that fit the briefs. So Jason Reitman really wanted to support LGBTQ creators, and Mark Duplass really wanted to support creators outside of major markets. And those campaigns enjoyed a 99% campaign success rate. So we are making a huge expansion of the Patrons Fund in 2023. And that is all I can say about that now. More to come in early January. And I will just say that it feels super fitting to close this year with a person I sort of consider the king of crowdfunding, who's Mr. Jim Cummings. And I think he's going to come to the screen now.
Hi, everybody.
Jim, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited for y'all to have this conversation. And we're very grateful for you. And I also just want to congratulate you on a crowdfunding campaign that basically got to its goal in like 72 hours.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm honored. It's we're very, very lucky. And a lot of it is luck, I hate to say.
Well, we thank you so much, and Megan and Jim and Bill, have a great conversation and a very happy holidays and New Year.
Thank you, Emily. I'll just do a little brief intro. Jim is already on screen, but a little bit background information on our writer, director, actor, 30-minute mentor of the half hour. Jim Cummings is an actor and filmmaker from Louisiana. He is known for writing, directing, and starring in the 2016 short film Thunder Road, also one of my favorite Bruce Springsteen songs, which won the Sundance Grand Jury Prize. He extended the short into a 2018 feature film, winning the South by Southwest Grand Jury Prize. His other films include The Wolf of Snow Hollow for MGM and The Beta Test, released by IFC Films. He founded the Short to Feature Lab and is dedicated to emerging filmmaker education and sending the ladder back down however possible. Thank you so much, Jim. We need so many freaking ladders in this industry. As you know, you've experienced, all the fun and the hellish aspects of filmmaking and distribution. But before we get into your work in Thunder Road, turning it from a short to a feature, I wanted to speak to you about your current crowdfunding campaigns. I know two of them are for the same campaign. One is super secret. Is there anything you can speak about today?
Yeah, I can probably talk about the shorts a bit. One of them, thank you for having me, first off. This is pretty cool. I've never done something like this while we're doing a live campaign, and it's really cool to like actively see people support us. It's heartwarming. But yeah, these shorts are going to be super ridiculous and really good. The first one is about a brunch that goes awry. That's more about like how people have forgotten how to socialize properly because we've been inside for so long. And it's very poignant and very funny. And my buddy Dustin kind of came up with it, so we co-wrote it. And we really wanted to do it. We wanted to do it for about a year and a half. And I was like, all right, let's just do it. Like I got to hang out with Emily at a film festival not so long ago. And I was like, maybe I'll just surprise her. Maybe I'll just do a campaign. Why not? And then the other one is super secret. But it is about this thing I saw on the news where a studio would bring a copy of a movie that hasn't been released to someone as part of a Make-A-Wish Foundation. And it's about that going awry. And it's very, very funny and very dark and all my favorite kind of comedy. So we get to do that in January, thanks to all the incredible backers at Seed&Spark.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to Google, because when I read the description, I thought it was a different studio headline story. But now that you alluded to a little bit more, that sounds super fun. So what drew you to crowdfunding again for these shorts? We mentioned you had crowdfunded for the Thunder Road feature. So what brought you back to crowdfunding for this project?
Necessity is the mother of invention, isn't that right? I think really, like, I just realized that if I went and knocked on conventional doors, it would take 4 years to get approval to do anything. So basically, our last feature film, The Beta Test, although it was released with IFC, we crowdfunded it and raised $350,000 from perverts on the internet, people who like our movies. We're very lucky. And so because of that, we were able to have it feel unsanitized and raw. And I feel like if we were able to go through the Hollywood system, not like anybody's asking us to, it would have lost a lot of its teeth and a lot of the punchlines. And we really wanted it to feel like something that was dangerous to make. And that's my favorite kind of filmmaking. Triangle of Sadness is my favorite movie of the year, and it's amazing because it is so unsanitized. It's not something that it seems like when you're watching the film, you're like, I can't believe they did that, and then that is noteworthy, and also kind of rare these days. And so we wanted to make these through crowdfunding because we didn't want to waste any time. And we wanted to make something that would be really respectful for a media literate audience that hates these things, which would be really funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like you kept more creative control. And then IFC came on as the distributor at the end when you were like, hey, we already made this. You can't give us notes, essentially, which is awesome because then you can keep the best of the worst jokes in. So I wanted to go back to your short film. So you won the Sundance Grand Jury Prize back in 2016 for Thunder Road. What, Sundance is coming up back in person next month. What can you speak very honestly about what doors that opened for you, and then what doors did it not necessarily open that you kind of had to kick down yourself?
All of the doors you have to kick down yourself. It's an interesting thing. I think a lot of the problems that young filmmakers face in entering the film industry, a lot of it is educational, where all it takes is a group of people or 100 people saying, we're excited, it's exciting, let's keep talking, love your stuff, oh, I love the movie, oh, it's fantastic. All of that kind of blowing smoke that can be incredibly distracting from actually doing something. So like I was distracted after Sundance where like I got representation and things seemed to be moving along, but the financing for the movie that I wanted to make immediately after winning Sundance fell through within 2 months of us shooting it. So that was a daydream lottery ticket, dangling carrot. And I should have listened to Mark Duplass and Jason Reitman, who I met at that festival, and were like, no, you just got to do it on your own. So yeah, I feel like the doors opened, but really a lot of the film industry didn't care about the short film because it didn't make any money. And so like I had not proven that I could make money in film. And so nobody really took us seriously. But the people who did take us seriously were outside of the film industry. They were audiences and people who, happened to be at the festivals. And so it was like really fulfilling to knock on those doors and say, hey, how do we do this? And then in running a crowdfunding campaign for the feature of Thunder Road, I had already done 9 more single take short films in the previous year and a half. So we were already making long form content. It just happened to be, a bunch of short films
chopped up.
instead of the feature. Exactly. And so I guess like the best advice that I could give is to ignore those doors. And anytime you knock on one, you're never going to get any money. They have to knock on your door. And the best way to get somebody to knock on your door is just to keep making stuff.
That's a really nice reality check, because I feel like, especially over the past few years, as opportunities have kind of dwindled for people trying to break into the industry from indie to professional filmmaking, there are a lot of dangling carrots. There are a lot of like people who, as soon as you get into that festival, they come, they want to set up a general. And so it's both heartening and disheartening, but it's like, once you learn that lesson, that it's like, oh, I got to just take things into my own hands and not wait on, Mark always says, like, don't wait. You're not waiting for someone to come and like pick you out of a crowd and change your life. You kind of have to do it yourself before those people come along.
Yeah, the cavalry isn't coming, to quote him. Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
And then for a long time, we still thought, oh, but the cavalry might come for us. And it's just not true. And, it takes, a parent can say, don't put your hand on that stove, you'll get burned. But it really does take the kid touching the stove a couple of times before realizing, oh, no, this is a lottery ticket. It's a lesson that you have to learn inside of your mind. And every filmmaker, it's basically the biggest hurdle to get over once you realize that you have talent, that you're good, is that nobody's going to help you and nobody cares about your movies as much as you do. And you have to continually remind yourself of that. So basically, that's the takeaway, is like, however you can make the movie, do it. Because even if it's not exactly as you imagined it, even if it is, $1 million less than what you thought you'd be getting to do it, at least it's happening. And then that becomes a great commercial for you and what you want to do next.
Nice. So when you started with Thunder Road as a short, did you always imagine it as a feature, or were you inspired to make the feature once you saw how much the short was embraced?
Yeah, a bit of both. And so no, I didn't think of it as a feature. Thunder Road, the short, was always just this practice in humiliation. And I was working at a comedy company at the time and doing a bunch of sketches that weren't very funny and not very important. That was like kind of cross coverage, over the shoulder, improv comics doing stuff. And it felt awful. I grew up watching Steve Coogan and Ruben Östlund and Hitchcock, and I was like, oh, there's got to be a way to do comedy where it would be, actually impressive. And my buddy Danny Madden, who's out on the porch right now, got me started doing animation production. So every single frame that we were working on was hand drawn, and that was an audience going, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And so I just thought, oh, how do we transition that into live action? And it became long takes and comedy and drama together at Heartbreak. And then we won Sundance, and nobody wanted to really help, really. I mean, we had like 1,000 general meetings and shook hands and kissed babies. It was very nice, but it never led to a single dollar. And then we realized that we were going to have to crowdfund the feature if we wanted to do it. But it took me about 8 months to realize that was the best thing. It took me 8 months to realize what a good feature would be for Thunder Road. And then I wrote it in like 5 days in a basement, drunk, and and then that became this 14-day shoot in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. Did you, when you were making the short, did you learn things on the short that helped you figure out like what the feature would look like, whether it was technical elements or in the performance, or the long shots or story elements?
So like in doing the long takes, I loved Children of Men and Tarkovsky's work, and I realized that was something that was moving for an audience, that it made you feel much more engrossed in the story if it wasn't conventionally edited, if it was all one shot, it was more theatrical. And so that was my first time doing a long take short film. And it worked, like gangbusters. It was fantastic.
Mhm.
And so I realized that I was pretty decent at that stuff because I was an editor for 4 years beforehand. So I knew how to edit the film before we showed up on set. And so a lot of the acting is just me rehearsing it and editing it in my mind's eye 1,000 times over before we shot anything. So in that sense, it did influence it. And then after doing 9 more single take short films, after doing the Thunder Road short, I was watching all these movies that were conventionally edited, and I was like, oh my God, editing is an art form. This is like, I should do this more. I should use montage. And then that became my my kind of style that I'm working in now. And now it's all conventionally edited. It's very rare if we ever do long takes. So I learned a lot, but really I learned much more from being on sets that other people were directing and watching them miss opportunities and not care about audiences. And I was like, all right, once I get the reins, just let me do it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. So there's a couple great questions from the audience we're going to switch over to. So how has your crowdfunding experience been different between a site like Seed&Spark and the equity-focused site of WeFunder, which I think you did for your last project?
Yeah, so Seed&Spark has been, very fulfilling because it's much more artist-driven, and like there are ways that we can give back. So there's a reward where I can watch a short film and give notes, and it feels much more community-based rather than business-based. A lot of the backers for our WeFunder were from Silicon Valley. It was like non-overlapping audiences at all. It was people that wanted to get into indie film from a financial standpoint. So very different. But then, in making a feature film and doing the WeFunder, it's an LLC that we had to build, and then we're selling shares of the LLC and then sending money to people when we sell the thing to IFC. It was a very fulfilling business proposition for me. I got to be kind of the head of a studio, which was great fun. I got to pretend to be Michael Eisner for a minute. And then now it's just a really great thing to be able to unite people online behind a crowdfunding campaign. That's like, every dollar that you give me, I'm going to put that into making something incredibly ridiculous, and it'll make you laugh. I don't know. It feels like I'm making, like I have a community of people that are watching me on the tightrope, and they're like, I want to see what this guy does next.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice mix of people that are coming over from your original audience and now indie filmmakers who have also like seen you do what they're emulating, trying to do, like create shorts, adapt to features. But yeah, I saw that shorts feedback one is really great, and I'm sure will be a lot of fun, just you getting exposed to all the different types of projects that are coming through the door, and people who want your eyes on something. And
yeah, I love it. Like we run a lab every year called the Short to Feature Lab, and I watch every single short film that goes through, and it's usually 350 to 400 short films, and I watch them in like a 3-week period. And to find something of just like, people are submitting because they know it's me that runs the thing. But to find somebody who has the same sense of humor as me, it's just like, oh my God, this is like, it's such a discovery. It feels like such a fulfilling experience. I guess that's what like festival programming must feel like when you're watching thousands of films and then you find something that like is very significant. It's an incredible experience. That's why I love being on Twitter. It's like being on social media. People will say, hey, I made this thing for nothing, but I think it could be good. What do you think? And I usually watch everything. And it's like, it's so fulfilling to be a part of the community. You get to like meet people who otherwise you would never meet because they live in Tampa, Florida,
Yeah. Internet and Twitter can be good for some things it's funny. Like, not all, but that it is great, like to be able to like bring together people from all over. And that's really what Seed&Spark is like, we're not just focusing on people in LA and New York. It's people from all over small towns making their stuff. So what elements do you believe are essential in a proof of concept short for someone who's starting out with just the short before they get to the feature?
I think it has to get a feeling across to the audience. You have to make sure the audience gives a shit. It's very difficult. I wrote an article on my Medium account about what makes a great short film, and really it always comes down to like, I can't tell you, but I know it when I see it, where it's like, it really, really depends on, I guess, craftsmanship. Craftsmanship is the most important thing, to show off that you are using the camera and sound and performance and pacing to wield an audience's attention and to make them feel something, whatever it is, fear, comedy, tragedy. That is what is absolutely necessary before expanding into a feature. And I think like there are people that jump into making features because they feel like, the independent film can often make you feel beat down, like you're not good enough 1,000 times over. And so some people rush into making features instead of making, 30 short films like I did, 15 short films like I did, until one clicked, and find out what you are really excellent at and run at that. So yeah, I think like having something that is worth expanding into a feature is very important.
And I would say like the same thing for comedy. It's like your first set of jokes or your first set or your first sketch, like you said, is not going to be the like end all be all thing that'll go viral.
100%. 100%. It's actually such an apt metaphor, and I think few people realize that like making a short film is stand-up comedy. It's like you are up on the stage, you're in a block of short films at a festival. You cannot lose the audience for a second. If you lose the audience, it's the most judgmental audience that there is. And especially if you're planning on going to big film festivals, because everybody in the audience is going, oh, this person thinks they're so cool because they got in here. And then they're judging the hell out of it. And so like you have to think about every single moment to not lose them, because it has to be deserving of their attention, of their time. And it is exactly that. It is stand-up comedy. And it is very important also to bomb as hard as you can, to realize that that is the worst that can happen. Fuck it. I'm going to do whatever I want. And as soon as you realize how bad that is, everything else seems easy.
That's a good segue to a tiny plug. We're doing a panel at Sundance called Rejection as Creative Fuel. And Julie's helping me put that together. And it's something I've definitely learned where, because I've been doing comedy for 10 years and you, even after 10 years, you're like, you still have those big no's that can feel like, where the fuck is my career going? And it's sorry, Bill, for saying fuck, but it's really gratifying. Like it actually is great to have that experience still within your career and be like you're trying stuff and seeing like, hey, will this go well, or will this be like as crazy as, I don't know. I think it's a fun creative risk that you don't always have when you have, like you said, a studio breathing over your shoulder, trying to water it down.
I was really frightened of rejection for a long time, and it got me down and out so much so, I got rejected from Sundance fucking 8 times before we ever got in. I never thought that it would ever happen. It's just statistically, it's twice as hard to get into Sundance as it is Harvard. You have a chance of getting into Harvard twice before you get into Sundance. It's insane. And I think filmmakers don't realize that. It's like, it's a very difficult thing. But I used to do this thing called rejection therapy, where I would walk up to strangers on the street and ask for gum or a ride somewhere. And just to see them say no. Like, oh, do you have a cigarette? Oh, okay. Just to like have that feeling of being rejected. And then immediately it's like, oh, I can walk. I'm bulletproof now. If you do it long enough, you can walk into any studio and say, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. And if they say no, it's like, cool. It doesn't mean I can't do it. It means I can't do it with you.
Exactly. Oh, that's such good advice. I'm going to start asking people for gum now, just to harden myself.
Hey, do you have any gum? I mean, if you get really crazy with it, of like, my buddy Dustin does it, where he's like, hey, how's it going? Who'd you guys end up voting for? Just to see what they say, just to get a rise out of people. That's great.
That's great. We'll land on one final question. We were going to have you speak to, final advice for emerging creators, but also we'll do a little spin of this question around distribution recommendation for indie filmmakers, because you had a really unique experience with distribution on Thunder Road, the feature. So can you speak to, what your advice is there for indie filmmakers?
Yeah, for distribution, you've got to do it yourself. The best financial decision of my life was self-distributing Thunder Road. You own everything of the movie, and if you like, I think it's also an educational issue that like any small distribution company is using the same aggregators that you could use. The landscape right now is, in order to get on iTunes or Amazon or Netflix or any of these things, you can use an aggregator like Premiere Digital or Bitmax and do it entirely on your own, like you're uploading to YouTube. And a lot of filmmakers are getting screwed over because they don't realize that they can do that, or that they've been bullied out of doing that so that their property can be stolen from them. And really, it is going to be a lot more like YouTube. It's like YouTube now. It's like, instead of selling your movie to a YouTube channel that then is going to take all the direct access with audience, and like they're going to put whatever they want in the description and their contact information. If you can put it up to the world on your own account, you get all of the benefits of owning your property. And then if MGM comes along and finances your second horror movie, then you see spikes in revenue for that for the rest of your life. It becomes a retirement plan. Yeah, so self-distribution, I think, is absolutely not just the future, it's the present, and everybody should be doing it and ignoring any of the dangling carrots of small amounts of money and inadequacy traps that people will give you and saying, oh, you shouldn't focus on that. You should be working on your next movie. You shouldn't have to deal with this stuff. And it's like, it's just a way to remove you from your property, to exploit you, to take advantage of you. It's terrible. Hollywood.
Totally. I love that you you talked to a lot of people, you got offers, but you didn't. I think a big mistake with early career filmmakers is they just say yes to, like, with managers, like they just say yes to the first offer because they're like, oh, here's a concrete offer, but then it ends up screwing you, and you held off and you waited for that last one and it wasn't that good or wasn't good enough, and then you valued yourself higher.
Well, we were very lucky. Kogonada ran so we could walk. So Kogonada had done Columbus and then did a case study with Sundance. It's available online as a PDF. It's great. But we saw that his movie cost $750,000, and then he was able to self-distribute and make $650,000 in the first year and a half or something.
Wow.
And we're like, oh my God, our movie cost 190 grand. Like, if Kogonada can do it, we'll figure it out. Like, and then he was was like incredibly responsive. He's on Twitter. You can talk to the dude, and it was really, really fulfilling to like work with Sundance Institute. That's how we were able to self-distribute Thunder Road. But like all of the tools that you have are accessible and it's all democratized. And if you don't know how to do something, just Google it.
Google, the internet and Twitter can have good, positive takeaways if you use them the right way. That's but yeah, thank you so much, Jim, for bestowing your advice and expertise on our Seed&Spark community, because I think a lot of people get hung up in like this is, after I make shorts, I got to go to find a studio to fund my feature. And you showed people that's usually not the best path, especially
it's
for
never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah, it is
the
never
industry
going to happen.
Crumbling,
especially now, post-COVID, it is never going to happen. It's like you have to do it yourself. It is the only way. And like there are people that I graduated with that I was in blocks with at these film festivals who took that deal or who are like still waiting around to make their next big feature, of which they're going to get screwed out of in every contract, any money or any clout or anything. And it's going to take them a decade of their life instead of making something small and creating your own studio and having it feel janky. Like this is the nicest corner of my place. Like the rest of it, it's everything. It doesn't matter if it's outside of the frame. If it looks good in frame, that's all that matters. Make the movie you can make right now. Don't wait for anybody to give you permission.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you, Jim, for your generosity and time today. Thank you to our sponsor, Tennessee Entertainment Commission. Thank you to our ASL interpreter, Bill, and the Sign Language Company. Thank you, Frankie in the chat and Julie on tech for running today's event smoothly. And thank you for all of you for joining. I hope you take this advice and run with it and I'm going to say fuck again, fuck the studios, fuck the system, and do it your own way. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody.